Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Dave Emmons and Strange Reality. Let's see if you can see the screen behind me. That's my back screen on my green screen. And that's, I got that there to remind everybody that if I make a mistake, then you know who's doing it. But this is Dave Emmons, A Strange Reality. And my guest today is Debz Shakti. And we will be talking a lot of stuff in the interest of UFOs, ETs, and everything, quantum hypnotherapist and everything. So she's a channeler and a psychic medium. Debz Shakti is a professional quantum hypnotherapist, an open channel and psychic medium, offering many other professional PSI services. And we'll give you her locations towards the end of the show, and I'll put those on the narrative on this video. She lovingly hosts a long-standing local CE5 contact group. Debz, is that with Dr. Greer? Are you working with him?
Well, he came up with that term, but I've been doing under many different names, skywatch type things, UFO watch things for probably 40 some years.
Yeah.
Skywatch,
Yeah.
UFO hunters, star seeds, and
Yeah.
then he came up with CE5, which is close encounters of the fifth kind, and people really like that term because it talks about human initiated contact.
Right.
So we use
Yeah.
that term.
It costs money to get in his group. I could
Oh,
say that. I
yes.
think
Yes,
it's five
indeed.
thousand dollars.
Yep.
And she's with a local CE5 Contact Consciousness group, and is an active member of several international CE5 contact teams, leading retreats and researching the infinite nature of consciousness, and which is a key word, and we'll be going into that. She is an associate producer of the new top-rated film Alien Abduction Answers. Her work as the quantum hypnotherapist assisted, she was assisting John Yost, and which is a mutual friend of ours, great guy, and we'll get into this guy a little bit later. But I need to mention him several times, and I know Debz knows him really well. He was the filmmaker, producer, as well as with all the experiences in the film, is highly featured. Debz actually worked with this film, and she'll talk about that. She has many decades of professional service working with such people and many others seeking self discovery and clarity about the nature of consciousness. And we'll learn more about that. I love getting pieces of the puzzle, Debz, from people that have this experience and knowledge. Debz Shakti was born with most of what she was affectionately calls her superpowers. ESI gifts switched on. She also cherishes a lifetime of daily, almost constant contact with the various forms of consciousness, including ETs, interdimensionals, orbs, celestials, ultra terrestrials, and more. She has always perceived and has been able to live and work multidimensionally. Yeah, she needs to be in my place. There's been a lot of activity here.
Ooh, I'd love it.
She channels the highly advanced group entity known as the Star Teachers, and we'll talk about that, as well as other wise and benevolent beings who say they are US, having evolved in much higher, more positive and co-creative frequency. Deb Shotke offers numerous types of energy healing, and we'll let you find out. I get a hold of her if you want to do some work with her and let her work on you, as well as the wisdom and the spiritual technologies gleaned over 50 years of practice. She doesn't look that old. I thought that a while ago, and a formal teaching of yoga and breath work, meditation, and mantra, and also spent much of her life as a competitive strength and endurance athlete, as a former national champion martial artist. That means you don't want to piss her off. She'll kick your butt. So I'm going to be very careful. she, lives about 5 hours away from me, so she can make that drive, come up here and kick my butt and go back home. I gotta be real careful. Debz Shotke loves everyone, our planet, and everything that makes up life. She is doing her best to work her purpose and get into helping people out to assist many as possible to become consciously balanced and sustained in self-awareness. Most of all, to be and share and teach love. That is great, and that's our mutual friend John Yost has said the same thing. Debz Shotke, you want to add what you're doing now? Is there any updates on what I just said?
Well, no real updates other than I just want to underscore that the star teachers say they're us. They're us on a different frequency. Or if people can't get their mind around the quantum nature of the universe, they're us from the future.
Right.
Yeah, and so they call us their future ancestors. Um, and I have to underscore too, everyone has these psi gifts. Everyone has these superpowers, but a lot of people in the human body on third dimensional Earth life don't have them switched on. They've been put on pause, if you will,
Right.
until something strikes them, and often they'll get a little, I call it a post-it note from their future selves, triggering something, a memory like John Yost had about his experience when he was a little child.
Mhm.
And it just eats at them and eats at them and eats at them until they seek out help or resources. They might, go to the library and read books about something, or they get in touch with a person like me, and then their world starts to crack open. And when it does, those gifts start to come back online.
Right.
Okay.
I'd like to myself. I have the same thing, Debs. I have intermittent, events that happen to me, experiences.
Hmm.
You can call them paranormal, like the light above me in the ceiling. It
Yeah.
started flickering off and on, but it stays on. And if I'm not in the room, it stays on. So
Yeah.
there's little things, and I've had some scary things happen, some energy things that hit me that not they're not. It's not from ET. It's from the alphabet area.
Hmm. Oh, yes.
They,
Yes.
yes, so they back engineered a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But how does one, Debs, actually, I know meditation, a lot of people meditate and they get into this and they can draw people in our dimensional entities or even ETs. And how does one do it on command? I can't do it on command. It's
Uh,
like when it happens when I'm sleeping a lot of times. So
mhm.
I tried like when I'm conscious and I try to draw things in. But how do you do that, Debs?
Well, you just gave yourself a big clue in what you said. Often it happens when you're sleeping.
Right.
And why do you think that is? It's because you're not paying attention to all of the stuff coming at you from the world, all that stimulus, right? We're, especially in this day and age, we are constantly being bombarded by stimuli, by media, by social media, by radio, by, and just even your visual cortex is taking in a lot of information
Right.
constantly. So the big answer here is to shut all that stuff down, to learn how to shut that stuff down. And when you do, when you can calm your mind and shut out the outside world, then the mind settles down, and then the information starts to flow in. So I call it connecting to your cosmic satellite dish. And there are a lot of ways you can do it. I teach people ways to do it, to get into meditation. Everybody kind of cringes when you say you need to meditate more, but that's the best way to get in. Get disciplined in quieting your attention and focus to the outside world. Then the inside chatter stops, and then you have a clear connection. So I do it by teaching some quantum consciousness practices that help to activate the pineal gland, which is up here in your brain. And it is literally the connecting point. It is the bridge between the physical world, third dimensional earth life, the human body and mind, the brain, and universal stream of consciousness or cosmic mind, the quantum field. So I teach classes in this way, and I work one-on-one with people in sessions. And in my sessions, that's my biggest goal, is maybe not to just only answer their questions or help them discover new things, but to teach them how to do this on command, to teach them how to develop their own skills, because everybody has them. Everybody has all the side gifts, not just me.
I'd like to know what's going on now because you hear all these conspiracies and you listen to these reels on Facebook, and you have these people who come out and they're trying to scare you to death.
Oh
There's
yeah.
tomorrow something's going to happen. We're going to see something really big. It's really scary. Really, I put in the comments. I said, quit lying and quit this disinformation. We need to stop this fear mongering. And
Yeah.
you asked a while ago that you got to get rid of everything around you, the clutter and all that stuff. It's hard nowadays.
It's
I
very
just
hard.
I just read an article that said that most people admit they're in a brain fog, And what does that
No.
mean? That means we're being bombarded by frequencies out of our control. And
Mhm.
if you believe in some of these conspiracy things that happen, around the world, like Hawaii and all these other places,
Yeah.
that there's frequencies that we're being bombarded with that we can't think too straight. How do you overcome all that, Debs?
Again, meditate.
Yeah.
And learn practices to be able to meditate. And that's the key. A lot of people have this misconception that meditation is sitting on a cushion on the floor and closing off everything, and you're just in this place of stillness, and then you get the information. That's kind of it,
Mm.
but for everybody, meditation is different for each person. I have a friend who is one of the best psychics in the world who cannot meditate that way. She meditates by walking, by hiking.
Mhm.
I have my own husband is a professional musician. His meditation is playing his guitar and getting lost in guitar. So really, meditation is another way of saying get into the flow state
Right.
or the theta state.
Mhm.
It's a brainwave state. It's a place where your brain is very focused, but it's not aware of. Here's how you know if you're in that state. If you lose sense of the outside world for a while, you lose sense of time, and
Right.
you lose sense of your own body.
Mhm.
So let's say you're working on your book right now, and you're in that state. You're like really entranced in it, and you're creating the artwork, and it's just luscious. You just can't stop working on it. And suddenly someone comes in the room and says, Dave, you didn't eat breakfast or lunch. Aren't you starving? It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You're like, well, I didn't really realize I was busy. You were in a flow state. You probably didn't hear the siren going off outside down the street for a fire department, and you forgot about time. You were in the theta state. That is a meditative state. That's also the state we try to get you in for quantum hypnosis.
All right, I'm gonna throw something at you.
Yeah.
I'm a combat veteran.
Yes.
Us combat veteran are hyper vigilant, and
Absolutely.
we're always keyed on things around us.
I know.
And it's a good paranoia, not a bad paranoia. A lot of people think,
It's a very finely honed skill,
yeah,
actually.
to be in tune with everything around you and who's walking behind you,
Hmm.
who's near your car, and that's what
Hmm.
they're telling us in the government. Just be watchful of things going on. You see
Hmm.
something, say something. But I hear all these other things. I get distracted, and this bad energy, has actually slowed me down. I just started getting back on this fourth book a week ago, and like I said, my concentration is all over the place. I
Yeah.
got to get it refined, and I guess I need an expert like you to help me with that. But that's involved in consciousness. Now you mentioned something. Now you're in my wheelhouse here. You're a contactee experiencer of both ETs and non-local consciousness, spirits, ghosts, angels, and interdimensionals and cryptids. Could you tell us? I know it's a lot to unpack with all these entities, but
Mm.
could you tell us a little bit how you deal with each one of them, and what are some of the things that you've seen and heard from doing this with these different entities?
Well, I'll tell you how I deal with them across the board, the same way I deal with people across the board. I take them at face value. I see them as a soul or a part of the divine spark. Everybody is connected. We're all part of the same energy, as you know. We're just all expressing in different ways. Actually, we are the universe, each of us, the universe, expressing itself and experiencing its life from one particular point of perspective.
Right.
So when I come up across, let's say an ET being shows up in my room or in my consciousness, number one, I learned there is nothing to fear ever, ever. Not even all the stuff that's going on in the world, not all the nefarious things. Fear is a low vibrational state of expression. If you can keep your own vibrational state high by doing certain things, expressing gratitude, always being in a state of openness and forgiveness and unconditional love, being of service to others, and lots of other things that you can do, yogic practices or spiritual practices, keeps that vibrational state high. That stuff can go on on a layer of frequency, but it's not going to affect yours. You can even see it happening like I do. It's like I'm looking through a transparent visor in what I call I call my body my spacesuit. So my perspective on what's happening in the world, I'm looking through the visor of my spacesuit's helmet, right? It's clear, but let's just say like the germs in that world that I'm looking at can't get through my visor. So it's kind of the same way. They're non-resonant energies. They cannot, it can't affect you if you don't participate, if you don't allow it to. It's hard to get across to people there is nothing to fear. I've had 2 near-death experiences. 2 times I've coded out in my life.
Really?
I
Wow.
have left and gone. Now I practice out of body travel all the time, and that's very similar, but I have literally left this world and gone to the place between lives, if you will, into the light. And I will tell you, absolutely true, what all the beings always say to me, there is no death. Even our astrophysicists say this, there's no death. Energy can't be created nor can it die. It only changes its form and function via its vibrational state. So you might leave your spacesuit, you might take it off and go out into, the great beyond, the wholeness that you are, the all it is, but you don't die and you don't experience what we call pain and suffering in this place. This is third dimensional earth life as a human is a little science lab that we created for ourselves to have different experiences. And we play different parts every time we come in here.
I know
Like,
when I've had
right?
experiences and I've seen ETs, I
Yeah.
get scared. And no matter how many times it happens, I think for the first few seconds you're really afraid, and then you're calmed down. I think what they
Yeah.
do, they calm you down. Could you
Yes.
tell me, Debs, what ETs have you seen? Any of the particular races that we normally see all the time?
Yeah, yeah. My earliest memories were of what I called little space monkeys in the tree outside of my window as maybe a 3-year-old, wanting me to come out and play in the middle of the night. Later on in years, I realized I was seeing grays. They were little beings with big heads, big eyes, long limbs, and they were in the tree. The grays have been around a lot in my life. The star teachers is it's a different whole set of different people. They're about, when they express physically here in this dimension, they're about 7.5, 8 feet tall. They are kind of a black, transparent, it's almost like a black crystal that you can see through. They're shaped like humans, but they don't have any features. And so it's just like this smooth black surface of these long, tall beings, and yet you can see into them. And instead of seeing their organs and muscles and stuff, you see galaxies and streams of light. They're super high level, and they say that they're us, kind of in the future or on a higher level of frequency.
You have any?
Um,
You have any drawings or pictures of these beings that you've seen?
I don't, and that's funny. You were asking me ahead of the show, do I have any books about this stuff? No, because I used to write books as a martial artist, as an athlete, as a yogi, books and magazine articles, and that takes a lot of time, as you know.
Yes.
When I started really focusing in on doing this work, I'm so busy that I've been trying to write the same 3 books for several years. I'm still not nearly done. I'm starting to get the message. I have to finish it, but you gave me a missing piece today talking about how you're doing your illustrations. Now I'm like, I think I've been putting it off because I need illustrations and I don't have the time to create the artwork by hand.
Yeah, this show
So
I showed, that's
yeah,
A Palladian princess.
so beautiful.
No, and it's great, the muse thing. And you were talking about uh ET. I got a couple of ETs from there, and maybe I can show you. Well, this one here, I think I'm going to redo. That's a
Love that one.
that's a reptilian,
Yeah.
and the one I saw did look like a snake. And
Hmm.
this one here, the gray
Oh,
guy, the tall gray.
I love him.
Yeah,
So great.
yeah, That's what you. Now this is a tall gray. This is not the
Yeah, not the little bitty ones. I've seen both.
Yeah, I've seen the short one too in 90.
But but to answer your question about fear, was I ever afraid of any of them? Absolutely not, because what you experience is a reflection of the vibrational state that you carry.
Mhm.
So, and your vibrational state is affected by your belief systems, by indoctrinated beliefs, by things that you just take for granted are true, that you were taught maybe as a kid. In your case, a military person. I work with a lot of ex-military, a lot of, shall we say, high level deep state people who are no longer participating. And so I can tell you there's a lot of PTSD, there's a lot of fear, and we've worked through letting go of that. Eventually, as you do this work and you see it clearly through quantum hypnosis, you go out into the field and you literally see things really clearly. And you're reporting it verbally back to me in a recorded thing. People are just blown away. They're like, oh, that's not what I thought at all. And I say, no, it's not, because it was in that experience was encased in what someone else wanted you to believe it was. And fear is the biggest manipulation tool. You get somebody in a fearful state or a highly charged emotional state, well, they're really easy to convince of things.
Now you mentioned a word there that kind of, I don't want to take you off the beaten path here and
No, it's okay. We'll
again,
go wherever we want to
you,
go.
you mentioned something about deep state people. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of misinformation, disinformation that's out there now about
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff. And I think a lot of it is some of these people are just pumping up the volume for nothing. Now,
Yeah.
now the deep state that you know of, and these people who've been involved, I guess, and this is for educational purposes only, as far as
Yeah.
the platforms are concerned.
This is postulation.
Yeah, and so what why did they want to get out of the government work or whatever they were doing? You don't have to be specific, but I just in general, they do exist and they do get wore down from what they're doing, right, Debs?
Yes, but I will say, for the most part, the people who come to me who are defecting, if you will, from these factions, these organizational um, manipulation factions, they do it because many of them are older now, and they're starting to come toward the last part of their lives, and they're just starting to wake up. Remember, I told you your soul leaves you post-it notes from the future, and it triggers you, and you start waking up. And every once in a while, a person will be doing this work. They'll do it their whole life, and they believe in this work, and they think they're doing the right thing. And then suddenly something doesn't quite mesh, and that's that post-it note. And then they start asking questions about their beliefs, and then they start asking questions about what they've been doing. And a lot of them, we have to do a lot of work around guilt and shame over it, because they feel terrible once they have cracked that code open and see that what they've been doing is for nefarious purposes, or for not so great purpose, not for the highest good, let's just say.
Right.
um, and once it seems like, it's that 100 monkey thing. Once one person does it, then it kind of goes viral and starts to infect via the vibrational state. They don't usually talk to each other about this stuff. They don't even know each other, know that it's very compartmentalized, this work. And so they don't even know each other, most of them. But I can tell you, I've worked with a lot of people from like the Montauk era.
Yes, I've interviewed people. Yes.
I've got many Montauk kids and scientists and military people. I have people from the secret space program, from the time travel programs, you name it. And also just from, people who've worked their whole lives as like journalists, who think that they're giving the proper information, and when they in fact are spreading propaganda and they had no idea. So it's like the soul finally rings the doorbell and says, okay, you've had that experience. Now we're gonna open up your view so that you can see there's more to life, and this is what your real purpose is to break this information to the world.
Sounds like, Debs, that you're attracting a lot of high-ended people in this business, and you must have a great reputation of helping people out. And of course, again, we're going to say for
I hope so.
platform purpose that this is for educational purposes only. And and Debs, you're not a doctor or a psychiatrist, right?
I'm not associated with any of the clinical practices. I started in clinical and I left because I couldn't, in that organizational structure, could not use my psychic gifts and my energy gifts. And I felt like I was leaving a lot of stuff out of these sessions. So
We have to clarify that you are not
yes,
a doctor.
I am a licensed therapist and a licensed hypnotherapist.
Okay,
So,
good,
but
good.
I do not belong to any of the three-letter associations just because of that.
Now we talked about, and let's get back on this I guess the smooth path here. Ghosts. What are ghosts and angels and interdimensionals? Could you tell us about that?
They're us on another level. That's all. It's all us. It's all the same thing. It's all consciousness expressing from different perspectives. Okay, so ghosts, people think ghosts are the spirits of dead people who are kind of trapped close to the earth,
Mm,
which it's not true. Quantum physics tells us everything is energy. Again, it always exists, and it always exists in the same place, the same location, only one location, forever, all at once. And that is what everything is. It's one point of existence, it's consciousness. But consciousness can be expressed infinitely. I call it like the infinitely faceted jewel.
mhm,
Consciousness, let's call you, Dave, your consciousness. You're the head honcho consciousness. You are this infinitely faceted jewel. And what you're doing as Dave today, talking to me, Debs, is you're looking through one facet at the jewel and you're seeing me through that jewel. And so I look different than you, and I have a different function than you do, or differences.
right.
And I'm seeing you the same way. And all of those facets are seeing things differently, or between similar or completely differently than what you're seeing through this facet. But it's all you.
Mhm.
There is, I think, was it Schrodinger, Edwin Schrodinger, who said there's only one consciousness in the universe, and it's you and all the reflections of you. So, to get back to that, ghosts are just one way that we perceive consciousness that wants to uh, experience with us or has a connection to us. You don't perceive anything that you are not resonant with. Okay. So I get people calling me all the time saying, can you come to my house? There's a ghost in my house. Can you get rid of it? Or I can't sell my business because the place is haunted. There's a demon in here. Or come help my child. Are you an exorcist? You know, all of these things come from different belief systems. Fear-based, by the way. So it keeps people in a low vibrational state. And so they're seeing them expressing sometimes as low vibrational states. But I'll go to a person's house and say, sure, I see that entity, that what you're calling a ghost. And they're telling me this, and they tell me information. And I ask the person, does that have any similarity with what's going on in your life? Does that ring any bells? It always does. There's always something going on in the person's life and the spirit's life and there's informational exchange that needs to be happening on both ends.
Mhm.
It's an equal exchange, by the way. The ghost isn't there just to scare the willies out of them so that they'll wake up and have, an epiphany. They're also looking for information from the human. So I believe that's what ghosts are. That's what angels are. That's what fairies are. That's what demons are. They're just different reflections of consciousness
Angels are
expressing
more
it differently.
angels are more benevolent. I guess they help people.
If that's what you believe.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
Your vibrational state determines what you're experiencing. So I've had, go to the Christian Bible, for instance. When usually when someone encounters an angel, they're terrified, they're struck down as blind, they're, horrified, they're in a state of fear and all that. Well, why is that? Because there's a shock value there. We were talking about, you as an ex-military person, you're on level 11 of hyper awareness all the time, right?
Right.
Because you've been taught to be that way. It's a survival mechanism. However, when you saw certain ET entities, for instance, at times, you were a little bit afraid. There's a thin line between being afraid and being shocked. Okay? We are programmed from birth in this place to be afraid of anything that surprises us, that looks different from us, that acts differently from us, that has a different belief system from us, and on and on and on. That is a control mechanism that has been programmed into the humans by, again, this is just my opinion, the powers that want to stay in power.
Right. I've been reading more and more of the elites and actually the high priest for thousands of years
Yes.
have controlled
Yeah.
humankind. And for 260,000 years, ever since the Anunnaki, they've always had priests or high priests deal with the people because they didn't want to deal with the people. They were extraterrestrial and they were training these high priests. You deal with them where we don't want to mess with these little slaves. And throughout history, it's been that way. The hierarchy, the rich and powerful, like we were talking about the elites, and also the kings and queens. Again, this is for educational purposes, and this is studying the book.
It's opinion, right?
Yeah, I said, what we've been finding out is that history is nothing like we think it is.
No, none of it is. Read Graham Hancock, for instance. History is written by the people with the most money and control, period. Our history is best known by going into the quantum field and looking at it objectively. And we can do that. You don't even just have to go in and look at your, what people like to call past lives or future lives. There are no past or future. It's all happening forever at once in the same place. You just focus on the different frequencies, like you tune your radio into a certain station. But they want you to believe that, for instance, reptilians, they look like a scary snake, or a lizard or a crocodile on our planet, which are dangerous. So obviously they're dangerous. Well, I have to tell you, I have one of my best friends is a reptilian, and all the reptilians I've ever met they're healers, and they're like soul bodyguards. They're there to help guide you through the muck and the mire as you're walking through the swamps of Earth life. But that's because I'm on a certain frequency, and those are the kind of reptilians I'm encountering. Are there dangerous, scary, Machiavellian reptilians that exist in creation? Of course, because everything you can think of, you've created. You, as the creator, have created. And so it exists on some layer of frequency, but doesn't mean you have to experience that ever.
Right. Now, this reptilian that is this person a shapeshifter?
Yes. Yes.
And they're human. They're like human during the day, and at night they turn back into reptilian.
Well, at will. It's not day or night. It's just, but they're beautiful souls, the ones I know. And I have a blue mantis being that is an absolute wonder, a scientist, a doctor of the highest level. And people are always scared of mantis beings for some reason. I'm like, why? Because it looks different than you. You have to be more open-minded, and you have to release the fear agenda that our culture has promulgated on us over eons.
Okay, what are cryptids, Debz?
Well, cryptids are that's kind of an umbrella term, at least from my understanding, of any kind of paranormal like entity that is a solid form, like a Sasquatch, who prefer, by the way, to be called Janu. They don't like to be called Bigfoot or any of that. Janu is their name. They are, they're interdimensional creatures. But when they incorporate here, when they are literally showing you their physical form here, they look like what you know as Sasquatch,
Yeah.
uh, Mothman, uh, you know, goodness, there are lots of them, different types of forms. Yeah.
And those are manifested from us, and we bring them into our world. Is that we do that?
Everything's manifested by us,
Mm,
by you.
yeah.
I mean, I'm manifested by you, if you want to be honest about it.
What about the matrix? Are we a matrix or a hologram?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but see, it's so hard because words cannot express what life really is. What real reality is an infinite expression of the mind of source. Anything that you can think of, whether you're afraid of it or in love with it or in between, is real on some layer of frequency. Now, if you don't want to encounter a scary ghost or a mean reptilian, then get yourself up out of the fear tar pit and be joyful, be happy, be of service to others, be grateful. Do things that raise your vibrational state, i.e., make you happy,
Mhm.
feeling loving, feeling purposeful, and you won't encounter. They can't harm you. They can't. Those two things can't exist in the same space uh,
Yeah,
and
you
be focused on at the same time.
sound like my wife. She keeps telling me, she said, "No, honey, stay away from all this negative news. Quit listening to it and all,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
get away from it." So what I do now, I listen to just a little bit to find out what's happening this day, and sometimes the mainstream media might slip up and tell you some truth. They
Yeah.
might tell you the truth every once in a
Yeah.
while. So
Yeah.
you're listening for this, and but mostly they're talking about politics, and I don't want to get into politics and the and all this
Yeah.
stuff because it's
It's
really.
a waste of time anyway. So,
Yes, it's just battering our souls and our positivity. I don't want that. And I always pray, keep evil and negative energies from this house and my family, my friends, and everything. That's part of my prayer because of the extraterrestrial and dimensional entity contacts that I've had. I
mhm.
don't want bad energy. Now, I'm going to ask you something here straight. You sound like you really know a lot of these people and actually entities and ETs.
Mhm.
And you said you were born with psychic gifts already turned on, and so are these people drawn to you because of your psychic energy, Debs?
I don't know. I cannot explain how, but I will say that I do know that quantum physics, again, teaches us that similar frequencies attract each other. Like attracts like. It's a very simple law of the universe is. And so it's funny because I never, for instance, like the Montauk children that were experimented on many years ago, um, the Stranger Things kind of people. I had a fascination with that work. I had a fascination with the Philadelphia experiment and all that way back when, but I wasn't focused on it. And then suddenly, certain pieces of reality started coming together in the last few years in my reality that started to make more sense about that. And as soon as I started focusing on it, they just came out of the woodwork. And here's the funny thing, as I said before, none of them know or at least remember each other. So it's not a referral thing. It's not like I deal with one and they call up their buddy and say, "Hey, this lady can help you." In that instance, like the deep state people, um, most of them don't know each other, nor do they refer them to me. It's just a frequency thing. What you are focused on and what you uh, embody, for the most part, the what you sustain is your vibrational state. I'm a happy, loving, kind of purposeful person. I try to serve a lot of people so that you're transmitting whatever you are out into the rest of creation. When you're transmitting a signal, as you know, there are other people out there who have kind of that same vibrational state, and they become the receiver and they pick you up. It's like a ham radio operation, right? So suddenly they're drawn to you, or I'm drawn to them. Uh, I've bumped into these people in a grocery store. never knew them, and we're just standing in a long line, and something happens, and there's a conversation that happens, and
And feel the energy. I
you
know.
feel it.
Mhm.
You feel that person. You know that person on some level, which we all do, because that person is really us in a different spacesuit.
Oh, really? Uh,
Yeah.
Now you talk about healing, balancing, and manipulation, and you're doing. I guess you're doing that with channeling and psychic medium work. Uh,
Mhm.
so that's what you bring to these people when you talk to them, right? I mean, you bring
Yeah.
them. So
It's funny though, there's more that happens. The words that are coming out of my mouth, for instance, with you or with a client, those words have a lot of meaning, and they carry a lot of weight with people. They go into the mind, and they create thoughts, right? They create patterns and emotional responses. But the words are the carrier wave for the energetic information that is millions of times more important and grand and weighty than the words. And it comes on the carrier wave of the words or even my body language, and it's going into your energy field and actually helping to reorganize and balance and heal. And this is how energy healing works. uh, you can do all the stuff. You see shamans doing certain things, you see energy workers doing certain things with their hands or chanting or something, yogis. It's all just a means of getting your energy field in the right place where you can connect with someone else's. And there's that exchange. It's like getting a blood transfusion, only it's energetic and much more powerful.
and you say you use yogi in your work also.
Oh, yes.
Debs, how does that help? How does yogi help this?
Well, yoga is I like to say it's a spiritual technology, but I don't even want to call it spiritual because that turns some people off. It is it's a consciousness technology. Yoga is a way of, what most people in America think of yoga as doing, poses and doing things like this. Some people who are a little more advanced might even put breath work in there or mantra where you're making sounds, chanting. Uh, these are technologies that have been around since the beginning of the beginning, and they were given to us tens, hundreds of thousands of years ago, maybe millions of years ago. And what they are ways of calming the body and the mind down and getting them into coherent state. And then you're able to, as I said at the beginning of this broadcast, to get into a place where you're tuning out the physical world and you're calming your mind chatter down, and then suddenly you're tuned in to the great radio station, which is the consciousness, stream of universal consciousness is where all the information lies.
Well, I was just talking about we can feel the energy of another person, and that person is
Yes,
probably part of us. But the quantum entanglement also explains a lot of that. Uh,
precisely.
that's unique there. Uh, you have experienced multi-dimensional and had other your whole family when you were a child. You
Ah,
interfaced or overlaid your current realities, family life. Uh, Can I ask you a question? I mean, this
yeah,
people
go
are people
fire away.
they're coming to you, and you have this energy and you have this knowledge. Are you a star seed or a star child, or do you think you're a hybrid?
Yes,
Really?
all of it. Yeah.
And I was just wondering because I've met some people who I think are human ETs,
Mhm.
humanoid ETs, and I've met
Yeah.
I've actually got pictures of one that I put in my book, but that's they what do they want? But I'm sensing you have the knowledge and you're drawing these people, ETs especially, and they must know you somehow
Mhm.
or another, from your energy, of course, that we're talking about, but they must know that you are part of them.
Yes,
So how it's like these contactees, and you've been a contactee, I guess we can say that too.
my whole life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your whole life. And I've been a contactee, and sometimes I think it if my spirituality, do I have contained another spirit that's within me? Because we have a lot of wasted DNA, is what scientists say, but it's not wasted.
No.
It's actually memories of all the other past lives and
Yeah.
other entities. Can you explain yourself? Like, why do these people, are they attracted to you because you're, I mean, a lot of people can say, "Come on, Dave, don't ask her that question." But
No, I'm cool.
I feel like I need to ask you, or do you think you're part of another dimensional entity, or you're, or a hybrid, Debs?
We all are.
Yeah.
We all are. Remember what I said. We're all the same thing. We're just different expressions of the same thing. But some of us, maybe it's because of the spiritual practices and the yoga practices and all that I've been doing this whole life. But I came in seeing these things. Like I did. I had a whole other family that lived, in an overlay of my physical family when I was a kid, and they had personalities, and the dad had a job, and my parents just thought I was really imaginative, but they were real. They're still real. But to answer your question, are they attracted to me because I have part of their DNA or something? They're, if you want to say attracted, they interact with me because I keep my frequency in a place that is more near theirs.
Mhm.
Remember, the again, it's like tuning a radio. If you are in a certain vibrational state, let's say you just had a tragedy in your life and you're very upset and you're very sad, and maybe you're angry even at how the tragedy happened. You lost someone you loved, okay? And you're just sitting there and you're really in an unhappy state, and um, suddenly you see something out of the corner of your eye in your room, and it's scary. It looks like a ghost and it looks like maybe smoke or something, and it feels not benevolent. Well, it's because that's where your cosmic antenna is tuned to. You're seeing things on that level of perception. But if you were to perhaps walk outside in nature and get in the sun and breathe in the freshness of the forest and hear the birds and you know uh, drink some fresh water or something, suddenly that doesn't exist in your world anymore. You see maybe the same being but expressing as a different way, as an angel, that's or a benevolent ET. It's not that one person is more attractive to them than another. It's just that they're in a state where the two can perceive each other and interact with each other. So that's how that is. So I tell people, part of the therapy that I do with people who are, for instance, who say they're abductees, and John was one, John Yost in the film we were talking about. They're terrified that something's going to attack them in the night or take them away, or some of the all of the experiencers in that film, other than Whitley Strieber, are my clients, by the way, and good friends. So all of these people had some of these experiences because a lot of their belief systems were already indoctrinated by, let's say, Hollywood or the culture or whatever. So they believed if something's coming into the room in the night and taking them away, that's scary and to be feared and to be fought. But it's not. They're our relatives. They're us. In my case, they were trying to take me into the craft or to wherever interdimensional space to educate me as a human about what I needed to do in my life here, to basically to help the planet, to help humanity evolve. Many of us children, Whitley Strieber called it the secret school, where children abductees were taken away and they're shown big screens. John Yost was taken to a cavern place and shown big screens of things. And what we find out is you're being shown scenes of high probability of what will happen to the earth and humanity if we keep going the way we're going. And so we were being taught things to do to help switch that stream so that we could have a better life, so that we could, co-create better together. So,
And how do you bring this out of people? You say you're a classically trained
yes.
hypnotherapist. Is that what you're using? That
Well,
term?
A little bit. That was the beginning.
Mhm.
Classically trained hypnotherapist, studying under some of the best in the whole world at the time, by the way. But when you put it together with these other practices, my clients have to do homework before they can come into a session with me. They have to do some. They're simple to do. Everybody can do them, but some breath work techniques, some sound technology using the voice, making a sound to vibrate the crystalline material that is in all of our cellular uh, organization of our body, especially in the pineal gland.
Right. I was going to mention that. Yeah.
Right. So when you do certain types of breath work, certain types of making sounds, and other things, all of the crystals in your body, especially in the pineal gland, start to vibrate coherently. Okay. And when that happens, and when you apply certain techniques that ancient yoga teaches us, and now neurobiology's gotten on the bandwagon, and they're teaching these things too, because they work to help people get better in from all kinds of things, psychological and emotional things. But when you do this, the especially the crystals in the pineal gland start to vibrate coherently in a very high vibrational state, and then they create the piezoelectrical effect. Do you know what that is, Dave?
I think I felt it. Yes. I have felt it.
Well,
Yes.
what
Sleep.
it is it's the same thing that runs your computer, your smartwatch,
Mhm.
your television. Anything electronic is run by the piezoelectrical effect. My husband, who is a guitar player, he has a piezo electrical things, pickups in his guitars that pick up the sound and transmit it. So what you're doing is you're creating this high level effect that transmits and receives. It's literally the very first radios that were ever created were called crystal radios.
Yeah.
They were, right? So they worked on the same principle. So you literally are turning in yourself into, or tuning in your radio transceiver or your cosmic satellite dish to a really high frequency when you do this. I have my clients practice this. I send them tutorials ahead of the session. They practice it, and then we do it together in the session, and we go into a deep state of meditation. That shuts off the world, that shuts off the monkey mind. You go into meditation, and then I can guide them into the quantum field where they can see whatever it is they need to see.
You
And
said earlier that everybody can be hypnotized.
yep.
I had an event that happened to me in 2012, I believe it was 2011, 2012. It's in my book, and I went to a hypnotherapist, and she was experienced,
Mm-hmm.
and she was going to get some of my regressed dreams from my abductee
Mm-hmm.
events. I laid on this couch, and she told me to count backwards from 10, and then she said I should be mellowed out and partially, I guess, out. But I couldn't because the towels hum. You ever heard of the towels hum?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that pretty bad. It's
Yeah.
I can feel it. Like it's a frequency actually, and
Mm-hmm.
when I started thinking and I started trying to drift away, all of a sudden I hear this towels hum really loud. I couldn't even concentrate. I turned around after she knew I got to one, and I turned around and looked at her, and she was at her desk. She was asleep. It reversed. It backfired, and I couldn't
Oh,
wait.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't wake her up. I went over, I called her name 3 times. I said, "Oh my
Wow.
god." I went over and shook her on the shoulder, and she finally woke up. She said, "Oh my god." She said, that is the, what she call it, a biblical thing, the rapture." She
Yeah.
said, "That giant triangle craft that I saw," she said, "that was a rapture." She said, "I'm so sorry." She said, "I'm not gonna charge." I said, "No, I'm gonna pay you. It's fine. I know what happened here. The energy just reversed."
It did.
I could not, the vibration of the hum, whatever. So I tell myself, and I know that what you just said, but I don't think I can be hypnotized, Debs.
Well, let me just ask you. We talked about this earlier. Have you ever lost yourself in your work or in some kind of activity?
Yes, but only for durations, short times.
You
Yeah.
were in a hypnotic state.
Yeah.
You, all human beings are, it's a natural part of your brain. You go through different brainwave frequencies. All humans go into that theta state 10 to hundreds of times a day, depending on what they're doing.
Right.
You just don't understand that you're doing it, or why, or what it's for. But when you are properly guided and when you're given techniques to kind of shut down your, number one, your fears,
Mhm.
you've been taught to be really hyper vigilant and not let go of your control, because an assassin's going to come up behind you and kill you, right? So, but that's not true. You're sitting there in your room and nobody's going to harm you. And no one would harm you if you were in a high vibrational state, because they can't exist in your perception. So when we do these practices, you get so relaxed and so comfortable that you don't even realize. And that's the other thing. People have to get out of their left side analytical brain to be able to do this work. But we have been so programmed to multitask and to be successful and to be driven and all that. We're constantly in our left brain. The right brain is where you get into those frequencies. So these practices are super simple. And when I guide you through them and we do it together, there's coherency between us. So we're in the same frequency, and I can feed your frequency to help you get you in a higher. When you do that, you finally are relaxed enough to be able to let go and go into the field. Now, the thing I try to tell people is don't judge anything, because you have been also programmed to think hypnosis is you're sitting there or lying there with your eyes closed and you're talking like this, and you know and that you could be eyes open, very conversational with me, but you would be spewing information you didn't know you had.
Right.
And that is also hypnosis. And in fact, you've been in a hypnotic state for probably an hour and 19 minutes now since we started.
Really?
Yeah.
It's been
Did
an
you
hour.
did you did you think anything about the outside world or your body or anything while we've been talking most of the
Nor-
time?
Normally, I listen for sounds. My motion sensors will tell me if
Yeah.
something's going on downstairs. But no,
Yeah.
I concentrate on my guests, and I'm concentrating on you, what you're saying. When people get into consciousness and hypnosis like you're doing, yes, I get kind of focused on that area. And
That's all hypnosis is. It's a specialized, strong focus
Mhm.
and a sustained focus where you are releasing your need to control everything else.
Right. Now, do you have other pictures to show, Debs? I was going to
Yeah,
ask.
I do.
Okay.
I don't know what you want to see. I mean, I can show you. We were going to play a video trailer of the movie, but I cannot get it to work. So I apologize.
We can
But I will
we can't
show.
we can't get the audio portion coming through your different systems. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you see this? This is a poster of the movie Alien Abduction Answers, and this is really one of the reasons why I wanted to come on, Dave, is because we want to talk about our friend John Yost,
Yes.
who
Mhm.
is the filmmaker. He's the little boy in that picture.
Right.
He had quite a powerful experience when he was 7 that changed his life, but he was told not to share that. Uh,
Yeah, his parents took it the wrong way. I mean, they took it,
right.
you know, it-
And
this gentleman here.
yeah, and so this is John.
Okay.
That was us at our film premiere a couple years ago up in Wisconsin.
Okay.
John is a dear friend, and he's one of the most brilliant people I've ever known. One of the kindest, most loving people I've ever known.
Mhm.
He's just brilliant.
Right.
And this is,
I've had him on my show, like I said, 2 or 3 times, and the last time was very eventful. I told you that
oh,
he's fighting this cancer, and
yes.
such a great guy, a loving guy, like you said. And right on the air, he used the word love, and he used other, peace, and he's wanting to be healed. And I told him, I said, well, I'll be praying. And I want to tell you the truth, Debs. I mention his name every night in my prayers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. I do too. I pray constantly for him, and I'm sending him energy. We do work together when we can. Where he is now is when he got we were working on the second film of what should be a trilogy. That was he got the download that this first film wasn't just a standalone film. It's to be built upon, because we had like 6.5 hours worth of really incredible stuff that happened in his big session, and you only see a tiny bit of it in that film, and we wanted to bring more of that into another film or two films where we're talking about, well, now that we know this is real, what do you do with it? And then the third film is, how do we change the world with it? He was just getting started on the second film this year when he found out he had pancreatic cancer, and it's very aggressive. If you know anything about pancreatic cancer, you know that it's usually a death sentence. There's just a minute fraction of 1% of people who've survived more than 20 years. And yet his spirit said, no, I'm gonna fight this. I'm gonna survive it. I don't want to do what Western medicine wants me to do, because it sounds horrible, and I'll still die anyway. It's just gonna rack up a lot of bills and a lot of pain for me and my family. And then I'll die and leave him with all that. So he did a ton of research. He is a bibliophile. He's like I said, brilliant person. And he found this place called Invita Medical Centers in Scottsdale, Arizona, who do alternative cancer therapy. And they're run by doctors, but they are doing stuff that is not FDA approved in our country. In other countries it is. And in other countries, it's even, their healthcare system helps pay for it or does pay for it. In our country, it is not approved, so no insurance will pay for it. It's completely out of pocket. And because it's not approved, it's privately organized, and it's very expensive.
Right.
So we have spent the better part of this year fundraising for him to get his therapies. And the good news is he started it in July, and he's almost completely clear.
Wow.
It's working in miraculous ways. Now, that's not to say it has been very painful.
Mhm.
He has lost, I think, close to 100 pounds. He and his wife, Lisa, a beautiful angel of a woman, had to pretty much sell everything they could just to get down to Scottsdale. They had to move there, get an apartment, rent a car, and pay. And they have to pay up front for every one of these treatments. And each one is like $25,000.
Is this
It's
the DNA directed treatment?
I don't know a whole lot about it. I know that it is very precise. Like this one thing called SIPI, they literally take a thin needle, almost like a needle biopsy type thing, and put it directly into the tumor that's in the organ, and direct the therapy just to the tumor. So the rest of the body doesn't die. Like chemotherapy kills everything, right?
Right.
But it is extremely painful. And then, of course, all kinds of vitamin infusions and all kinds of blood stuff. I don't really understand it, but it's a full-time job. And it's very tiring and it's very painful. But the good news is it's almost completely gone. And they are hitting it really hard now to get that last 1-2% that's left, and he's out of money.
Oh, wow.
So
He does have a GoFundMe page, and we
he
might
does.
mention, and he does have a
Yes.
supporting family. His son does most of the upkeep of that site, to the GoFundMe
Yes.
page. And I look at that and I see it all the time on my Facebook. And I just say a prayer for him. And I know that it's battle. And yes, I have known people with pancreatic cancer. And one was a musician friend of mine who I played with also. But he lasted a lot longer than what the doctors say. But now with this DNA in St. Louis, at Siteman Center, they have a DNA directed cancer treatment, and it works
Mhm.
very well. It's
Yeah.
individually targeted to that person. Uh,
Yes. So is this.
but you were also on this film with John. John Yost, he was the producer. You were the assistant producer of
Hmm.
this award-winning film, Alien Abduction Answers. And you said you worked with John, and you had as a quantum hypnotherapist is featured in the film.
Hmm.
And the experiencers in the film, you also they were your clients. You mentioned that a while ago,
Yes.
and they authored Whitley Strieber, in which I learned more about him this past year, and man, has he done a lot of work in this area in the
Yes.
a lot of
He's
great books. Yes,
he's incredible. He is the godfather of ET literature, I believe. He and Jacques Vallée, but Whitley has written so many books. He wrote, for instance, let's see, let me get that's me and Whitley when we are filming his segment in California. Uh, this is what he's famous for: the book Communion.
and there was actually he actually wrote what, 3 movies or something? What?
Oh, many movies. A lot of his books have been turned into movies, like the coming the coming global superstorm was made into the movie The Day After Tomorrow. Very popular movie about climate change, believe it or not, and what we're doing to the planet. Communion was another movie, and I think his book Wolfen might have been made into a movie too. I can't remember,
I
but he's
remember.
prolific writer. Um, we had such a good time together out there. He's a beautiful, dear person, and we're just eternally grateful that he agreed to come on and be in the movie. I mean, he kind of, we have John, we have me, and we have all the experiencers, but we needed someone who was an authority figure or an expert to kind of pull all this stuff together and make it understandable to the viewers. And I think Whitley does a beautiful job of that. He's just amazing. Um, but yeah, those are some of the things from the film. I'm
Would you
looking
like
here
to
to see.
would you
Go
like to
ahead.
run that video without the audio?
Yeah, I can do that. We'll see. It's probably doesn't make a lot of sense without the audio, but I'll
You
go
can
ahead
probably
and do
you can
that.
probably narrate a little bit of this. Yeah.
Let's see if I can even get it to come up.
Mhm. Okay.
And anybody can go to my website or our Facebook page for this and see it.
There's Whitley.
Yeah, that's Whitley.
That's communion picture. There's you.
And so John's saying hundreds of thousands of people have had contact and it'll change you. It really changed me. That's what he's saying. That's actually John's son, Nathaniel, who runs the GoFundMe page, playing Whitley Strieber as a young man in the movie,
Oh,
because we tell Whitley's story as well.
okay.
This is what John experienced when he was a child. And these are some just scenes of our experiencers. That's Ruth.
Yeah, I've seen this movie. Yeah, and when John was telling me about it.
She was taken out of her bedroom and up into the sky into a craft. So was John. But he was taken to an underground place. It's my friend Arthur.
Grant Cameron was also mentioned there.
Oh, yes. Grant's a dear friend, and
Yeah, he's a great guy. I've been on his show 3 or 4 times. Yeah.
oh, yeah, I go on his show a lot. Kimberly, one of my best friends, high level ET contact person, and she's also a facilitator of a CE5 group. That's me and my brother. Jacques Vallée. We had so many amazing people review this film. So that mark you see, and that's us in his session, that mark you see on John's shoulder came um, from his close encounter when he was a child.
Mhm.
It's still there.
Yeah.
So it's like he could lie about it all he tried, but he still had a physical mark of proof that it happened. Um, anyway, let's see if I can pull this up. This is the core group, all the experiencers at the premiere,
Mhm.
and Melissa here, Melissa Kane, she actually donated her resort in Wisconsin for us to do a lot of the filming there. She's an amazing person. She and Kimberly and I do retreats a lot through the year, and then some of the other experiencers now have gotten involved. Casey, Stacy, Artur, really everybody. And we lead retreats about consciousness, contact, and so forth.
Now,
And
have you
go ahead.
seen actual craft or any ETs during these retreats, Debs?
Every time,
Really?
every time. We have lots of things. We have, if you go to my page, there are videos, and I can link to some of our retreats where there's footage of the craft that we see. We have some great videographers who come to our retreats and document everything. We have some of the most incredible footage you'll ever see. Um, and then, there was a little snippet of footage in that trailer of a craft that I captured back in 2011. Let's see if I can get that to play so you can see it on an iPhone 5. So, forgive me, it's hard to see.
Mhm.
But this was on Halloween night over a neighborhood where I was trick-or-treating with my grandchildren, and there were about 50 people, and we all saw the same thing.
It looks like a triangle with three lights. Is that what it looked like?
Well, it actually was a hexagon,
Hexagon.
and so it's really hard to see. It's really small. But I turned it into MUFON that night. I was so excited. I got 4 videos of it. And I turned that into MUFON, and they sent it to their labs. They did some extensive testing on it. They did a lot of research into like the air traffic that night and all kinds of things, the military stuff and all that. And they say it's completely 100%, as far as they know, not man-made, and it's completely anomalous. So it was actually featured on one of the Coast to Coast shows with George Norrie that year, when they were doing a MUFON show. So, but these retreats, it's consciousness. It's not just, we do go out into the field at night and we make contact and we see these craft. We see, we encounter cryptids on the ground, ETs on the ground. We have all kinds of anomalous things happening. They're incredible. But during the day, we do a lot of teaching. And so I do some of those quantum practices I was telling you about where, we get the people into a specific brainwave state so they can be coherent. That's me from this one that we just did in September up in Wisconsin at that resort. And drumming is one of the things that we do to get people into a coherent state.
It worked at Skinwalker Ranch when they had the Native American Indians using the drum to call
Yep.
in, I guess, these energies or entities.
Indeed, indeed. We know that this works. I'm looking for another picture here. It's hard to see because they're really small. So this is, I'm leading a group quantum hypnosis experience at that retreat. This is our little retreat training room, our ceremony space. And these people are completely out. They're traveling, they're having experiences, and it's always so cool. We do this stuff during the day, and so we're really in that high state of vibration. And then we go out into the field at night and have all of these experiences. And it's been really, really fun to do. And I love doing that work. But yeah.
CE5 groups has different groups. I mean, you're not with Dr. Greer's group, but you got your own satellite group, I guess, right?
Well, that he originally started with one group and then started doing trainings, and so now there are, really the call to action to him from the ETs was train as many people as you can to start as many groups as you can. I don't work with Dr. Greer, but I worked with a lot of his core people and a lot of his first team of people. I work with people like Costa McCreese and Hollis Polk from etletstalk.com, which is another huge group, millions of people all over the world practiced CE5 through them with us. They learned also, kind of Dr. Greer stuff, and then and people put their own spin on it, just like we do. But his protocols are great. His ways of making contact are great. So, but some of the people you saw in that picture of the experiencers who are in the film and who I lead retreats with are have worked closely with Dr. Greer. So so there's a connection between all of that. We bring in yogic practices. Um, we bring in all kinds of sound technology, a lot of meditation, hypnosis practices, and so forth. By the way, there was a movie a long time ago called AI,
Yeah.
and those beings you see there, that's as close as I can get to what the star teachers look like, or the teachers. Um, Not quite. They're even more stylized than that, and even more beautiful. But that's kind of,
I showed you a picture a while ago, the one that AI drew for me.
yeah. Oh my gosh,
It look
so
kind of looks
good.
like that with a long neck. Yeah. Now you also, I guess, took into consideration of Dolores Cannon and her teachings, and
Hmm.
you were probably a little bit ahead of that when you were younger. That you got into like a lot of Dolores Cannon's philosophies and theories. Uh, but can you tell us how you and her kind of match up a little bit? And
Yeah, that's the weirdest story of all. I didn't know anything about Dolores Cannon until about 10 years ago, believe it or not. And I was running a big wellness center in our town, and hosting all kinds of classes and doing these experiences all the time in my groups. And people just kept saying, "Are you a student of Dolores Cannon? Your work, it sounds so much like hers, and even the verbiage." I'm like, "I don't know who this is." And so I started researching her, and and I saw she called her work QHHT, and I call mine QHT. And I thought, dang it, I should have trademarked that. This lady's, she stole my work. I was kind of mad.
yeah,
And then
she actually in Eureka Springs, she goes to the UFO convention there every year, and the last couple of years I was there in 2011, 2012, she was there, and a lot of the UFO people are saying, okay, we're changing the subject here. She gets off into consciousness, not everything else. But little did I know, after these last few years, I've been hearing a lot of her work, and I
yeah.
thought, well, she does coincide with UFO and ET uh,
Well,
experience.
she's explaining what it is, and her clients, like my clients, when they go into the quantum field through hypnosis, are giving the full information about this. They're not just talking about their experiences. They come out telling technical information about this and what it's all about, and all about our connectedness, about everything is consciousness. But about Dolores, I started reading her many books, prolific writer,
Mhm.
and I was just like thrilled. I'm like, my gosh, but this is weird. We're using the same technique. And so I took a couple of sessions from two of her strongest students at the time, and found out our work is almost exactly the same, except that her work doesn't put that the quantum consciousness practices ahead of it. You just go and you talk to her, and or well, she's rest in peace. She's
Yeah,
left her body,
I met her.
but
I met
yeah,
now
and
her
she
daughter.
also,
Her
yeah,
daughter
her
went
daughter
through.
Julie is now over it, but she also had a rule that you always had to do it in person, and I don't. I do most of my work virtually, but so I was like, man, these techniques are the same. How did this happen?
Mhm.
And so when I went into meditation, I asked my guides, the teachers, and they just laughed and they said, look, this process was placed into the collective consciousness grid of the earth about 65, 70 years ago for humanity, in expectation that you're going to move up the food chain pretty soon, and so that you'd have something. And about 1,000 people, here's that frequency thing again, about 1,000 people were in the proper frequency to receive it. Like if you're a match, it comes in. People call it a download, right? So I was one of those people. So was Dolores. and they said that about 1,000 people at that time received it. And depending on where they were in their life and what their purpose was, some people uh, learned it, thought it was interesting, and then thought it was fascinating and then left it. Some people worked on themselves and really improved. Some people, like me, started working with clients using their clinical practice and putting it with the clinical practice and found out it was way better
Mhm.
and way more effective in healing. And then other people like Dolores not only did that prolifically too, but then started writing books, opened a school, started teaching, and so forth. Now there are thousands and thousands of people practicing the original process that we were given, but they all put their own unique spin on it. And so you'll see beyond quantum hypnosis or higher self hypnosis, it doesn't matter. It's, for the most part, it is the same technique, and it is viral now on our planet. And it is so exciting to see this work happening.
I didn't know you were doing all this work. I knew a little bit about you because of your notes and stuff, but I didn't know that you were that close with John Yost, and that's a
Yeah.
surprise to me. In closing, could I show you a couple of pictures on my background and see what you
I
if
would love it. Yes, please.
see what you think? I don't want to, you know. Let's see. I got to choose virtual background for this. Uh, Trying to find the one that okay, it's this one. Let's see. Let me get out of the way here. Uh that's see that leg there standing there? That's the Michelin man, I call it. On
Oh,
the
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, right
He,
there. I
he
see
was
him.
going up my steps. That's not the one I really wanted to show, but I need to get back in. Uh I'm trying to get it's kind of hard to see the here it is. Here's the ghostly picture. That's
Oh,
that's
I see
behind
that.
me. Yeah. You can see the two dark holes.
Yeah.
You see, I got to get out of the way here. I don't have enough room with this desk, but you can see the dark holes. There's one on the door there,
I see the one on the door.
right?
Uh-huh.
There's one.
Yeah.
There's one up here in the corner. There was another one. I felt energy. This was in another house. I lived in Godfrey, and this is
Hmm.
another house, and I felt energy, and I just started taking pictures. I got this, and there's no smoking house. I did not smoke. Nobody smoked in my
Yeah.
house.
No, we see this all the time and during our CE5 events even.
Really? That's so
Yeah.
that's a weird one, but I wanted to show you another one here.
Nice. That's a great capture.
Yeah, that's from feeling energy and being
Oh, I love
okay.
it.
Here's my see if I can get way out of the way here for this one. Uh, I that's the problem with using the background,
Oh, I know.
but she's the alien that I met in Sedona, and I
Neat.
not being able to get her in there, but uh,
You can see her. She's beautiful.
yeah, she's Japanese,
Oh,
but she there she is.
there she is.
Yeah,
Neat.
yeah.
Oh, I
I
love
got
her energy.
that was Sedona,
Wow.
and I got about 9 pictures of her, and she actually come to my house 5 months later, and
Wow.
she brought two young teenager boys with her, and I thought those were my grandsons, and I thought she
Oh,
was my daughter
yeah.
because of all the things that's happened to me in the past. But that's what I was thinking, and I had somebody tell me that. But yeah, that was kind of weird, and they dumbed my cousin and I down. We couldn't talk.
Oh,
He was
I'm
on the
sorry.
porch. Yeah, it was pretty bad. He got scared, really scared. And let me see about this one. This is an energy one.
I really love that.
Can you see the waves of energy
Yes.
around
Oh,
each
yes.
other?
Very clear.
Yeah, and
We
it's
see this a lot when we take pictures of orbs.
uh-huh.
When you start to zoom in on them, all of this energy expresses like this in these wave patterns. And as you can see, it's very constructed,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
jagged lines and
Mm-hmm.
very much in order. And
Mm-hmm.
this was my trail camera got this.
Neat.
You know, motion sensor. And I got a lot of pictures, but we'll just go back to, uh go back to my original one because I don't want to hog up too much of this time and space. So
Oh, I love the picture anyway, but
I've got other pictures, but I don't want to take the time. This is the show. I just wanted to get your impression.
yeah.
What were those pictures? You know, the energy one was just taken this year.
They our our cameras now are able to capture more frequencies than the human eye can visibly perceive. You know, there is this gigantic spectrum of light that exists that we know of, and yet like it's this, let's just say it's this long, okay, the spectrum of light, of things that can be seen, except we as humans can only see this much, kind of in the middle. The
Mhm.
rest of this is out here. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but now we have night vision cameras. We have cameras that pick up all kinds of other, like IR and other frequencies, and suddenly you're able to see things. That's why your trail camera picked up, because it's a night vision camera,
Infrared, yeah.
infrared.
You said that the
Yeah.
Japanese, her name is Hiroko, and
Okay.
she could not read English, but she can speak it, and she knew 20 languages.
Oh.
She was very, when I talked to her the night before, a couple hours, she was very upset when I asked her how old she was. She said, "There is no age, there is
No,
no time."
no,
So I
there's no
kind of thought
time.
the red flags were popping, and I took
Yeah.
notes when I got back to my lodge room, and I met her the next day for lunch. But and I got more.
Neat.
She didn't give me nothing though. She didn't tell me nothing, and I think the NSA was following me because there was a young guy, looked like he was an NSA, and he was following her because they knew who she was.
More than likely. I deal with those people all the time. And I just, but I stay in a high vibrational state, so they can't do anything to me. They can mess with my equipment once in a while and things like that, but they can't harm me. So,
Also, you're a TI, a targeted individual,
oh, for a long time,
huh?
for a long time. But it's kind of, for me, it's just like I just send them love. That's all. And they can't harm me.
I hear that so much of the protective shield of love and peace and God,
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and it does work, right, Debs? I mean,
Yes, it works. It absolutely works. In fact, when I send my clients the recording of their session, often I will send them other resource materials, not just before to prepare, but afterwards to continue their work. Because that's my real goal, is to teach them how to turn this stuff on and enable it and develop it and all this. But one is something I call the impermeable bubble of love and light process. And it literally is, you put a force field up, but it's formed of love and it transmits love. Again, you can see through it. You can see, I had men in black try to pick me up one time when I was running. I was on a run and I was on the phone to my friend who's a high level CE5 person in Holland. And I was telling her, oh my gosh, there's a big black vehicle all blacked out. And this big guy comes, his black uniform and black shades. And he opens the passenger door as I'm coming to the intersection and says, time to give you a ride, ma'am. And I said, oh, no, thank you. And I just sent love and I just ran around the car and he looked at the guy inside like, what are we supposed to do? And he got back in the car. They followed me all the way home. And there was a black helicopter hovering over as well the whole time. So I was telling my friend on the phone and narrating all this, and she's like, I'm afraid for you. Can you be in a public place? I'm like, I'm on a boulevard in Kansas City. They can't do anything to me. Plus, I'm in a state of love and light. I'm just sending them love, so that they're not resonant with that, and maybe it'll affect them to where they start questioning what they're doing.
okay, who are the men in black? Very curious question there, Debs. Who
I
are they?
don't know. I think the men in black I was talking about just now work for some of those deep state programs.
Yeah, there are two factions of them.
Yeah.
One is actually with ETs,
ET. Yes.
guys themselves, and I guess
Yes.
what they do is they they back engineer each other. Apparently,
Yeah. Yeah. They do all kinds of fun stuff,
okay. I
but
guess
yeah.
I want to tell people that I have just interviewed a real a psychic medium during this hour and a half, and Debs, you are real, and Debz Shakti is very real, and you touch upon the ET and UFO things, and you touch upon mediumship, psychic, and hypnotherapy, and it's you're real. I mean,
Well,
I've
thank
interviewed
you.
a lot of people, but you have, especially with your contacts and the people that come to you, you have something that people are looking for. They're looking
Mm,
for that help to get them out of their train of thought, out of their bad thought.
yeah.
And upon that, before we end, could you tell people where they can get a hold of you and how they can get a hold of you?
Yes, absolutely. You can just search Debz Shakti, DebzShakti. My website is debshakti.com. My Facebook page is Debz Shakti. Instagram, Debz Shakti Official. Twitter, Debz Shakti. LinkedIn, Debz Shakti. All of the social media platforms are Debz Shakti. I have a very prolific YouTube channel as well. And so you just look up Debz Shakti. You'll probably get 5,000, entries,
I
but
will
you can just pick on.
I will put these sites in the narrative that I put,
Thank you.
and I'll put those in and run them. And I usually run them Facebook,
Yes.
Rumble, YouTube,
Perfect.
Spotify, Daily Motion, LinkedIn, Twitter. So I
Love it.
run all those platforms. So uh,
Thank you.
I get a lot of activity from Facebook.
Yeah,
Uh,
I do too.
yeah.
I don't know why. I can't get rid of it because there's too many people who still love it. So,
But do you believe in what they call throttling your views and your numbers?
oh,
They
it happens to me all the time. It doesn't matter. I just keep on keeping on, and I send love to them.
If you're talking about sensitive issues like we just did, I guess
Yeah,
they do
we
that.
may get closed down, but that's okay. People know that they can always come to my website, debshakti.com, and it's all on there.
I don't think closed down. I'm just saying that
No, but they'll keep people from seeing it.
yes,
Yeah,
they'll
yeah,
cut your numbers and things if they don't like what you're saying,
yeah,
but you're not violating their community standards. By
yeah,
the way, okay,
yeah.
that's why this was for educational purposes and entertainment purposes only. Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I
okay,
do want to just mention again too on my website and on all of my social media channels and YouTube channel, you will see information on how to, if you feel so inclined to help John Yost with his fundraising to finish the job up
mm,
so he can get well and make those movies because it's really important.
yeah.
There's information on that in all of those.
Yeah. I talked to John about doing something with this book.
Oh, I love
Hey,
that
what
book.
do they want? That was the first book I wrote.
I love that book, Dave. I meant to tell you first thing this in the conversation. I love it. So
Yeah, it's got all my experiences in there. So most,
yeah.
but I've been having things here the last couple of years too. Even
Oh
from
yeah.
it just
It
happens.
doesn't
It doesn't matter.
stop.
Yeah, it don't stop. It doesn't matter how old you are.
No.
Kathy Martin said the same thing.
Oh
Things
yeah.
happen to her, and she's probably a year younger than me, something like that. But she said that usually it stops when you get around 65 or so. But she said
Mm-mm.
it doesn't stop.
Mine's ramped up. I'm almost 68 and it's just all the time.
Wow. Okay.
Incredible stuff. And it gets more incredible every day.
Well, the ETs are holding your own on your age. I'm telling you that.
Oh, thank you. Hey, good lighting. That helps.
Yeah, bingo. But I want to thank you,
Thank you, Dave.
Debz Shakti, and I want to, and you have Bueller.
It's Buller. Buller. Yeah.
That's
But
your,
Debz Shakti, just
that's your.
look that up and you'll see everything.
All right, look her up. I'll have it on there, and I'll probably be posting this video in the next day or 2 days. So,
Awesome, Dave.
you know,
I
and
appreciate it so
I'd love to
much.
have you back on. You're so talented, really.
I'd love to. I'd love to come on and channel for people, even if you want that to happen, or
Yeah, I might get into a live thing. Yeah,
that would be
I
cool.
like to get in StreamYard, or I'm looking at this other site too that a gentleman did, and I have another guy who wants to do a show with me as a co-host, and he's been in it for a while too. But I don't know exactly what I want to do. I wouldn't mind having a co-host, but it's I
It's
want to build.
trickier.
Yeah, it's trickier, but I've been with co-hosts before,
Yeah,
and I've seen other co-hosts that sometimes they'll walk over each other, and
I know.
that doesn't work. That don't
No,
work.
that doesn't work for
No,
me either.
no.
But no, I would love to come back on and, we can talk about anything you want to. Experiences, hypnosis, quantum hypnosis, energy,
Yeah.
channeling, anything.
I'll be in contact with you. And I want to say good night to everybody, or good afternoon, good morning, whenever you see this show. And thank you, Debz Shakti.
Debz Shakti. Thank you, Dave.
Thank
you. You're a lamb. Thank you for this.
Thank you so
Many
much.
blessings.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.